Welcome to the ECKANKAR Soul Adventure podcast. I'm your host, Heather Davari. Have you ever felt a call to shape your life, to live with more purpose, to be the master of your destiny? Every person has the chance to find spiritual freedom. It's the birthright of soul. But how does a modern spiritual student achieve self-mastery in this lifetime? Today's story holds that secret. We'll hear from Laura Blank, a soulful spiritual seeker and mother of 3 young boys. Amid the chaos and beauty of her everyday life, Laura's discovered creative ways to turn ordinary moments into spiritual gold. Here's Laura speaking at the New York ECK Regional Seminar.
So about 15 years ago, I was living in California in Silicon Valley working at a tech company. And it was a tech startup. And it was a really exciting time because it was this whole startup culture and everyone was talking about getting funded and their new big business ideas. And I was just an office manager, but I was in the mix of this tech culture. And one evening, I somehow ended up at this party, and it was in a warehouse in San Francisco where all the cool parties happened. And it must have been sponsored by some billion-dollar venture capital firm, because everybody else at the party, they were the founders of these major tech companies, the chief technology officers, the heads of creative marketing and innovation, and then there was little old me kind of hanging out, trying to fit in and look cool. And the conversations in this party were so thrilling to me. I mean, people were spouting creative ideas about harvesting garbage from outer space using laser beams and 3D printing and all different, just spanning every realm of imagination. And I was so inspired. And I realized these people were from all over the world, all different ages and all different backgrounds. And yet they were all drawn to be near each other because they had this similar vibration. And I thought, what is this? And I realized, they're all experts in something. They all are sort of masters of their domain, whatever it is. And here I am peeking in on this circle of masters and getting to witness what it's like. And so when I drove home that night from the party, I was thinking to myself, boy, I would love to be friends with these people. How do I get my daily circle of people to be like this, where we're talking about creative ideas and plans for the future? And so I sat and I thought, and I said, there's this quote, the state of consciousness you relate to is the state of consciousness you make real. And I thought, if I want to be in this circle, well, I guess I need to be an expert in something too, because this is how the experts vibrate. And so in bed that night, I was thinking, man, I shouldn't have given up piano when I was 7 years old. That would have been the ticket. Gymnastics, I gave up that one too. I dabble in a bit of wilderness survival and nature skills, but nowhere near expert level. And so I was thinking, man, I guess I'm not going to be able to be a part of this circle. But I want these types of people in my life. And so I flipped the question to myself, and I thought, well, what's the one thing that ever since I was little I've been working on doing that I just want so badly to be good at? And the answer that came to me immediately was listening to your heart. And so ever since I was a little kid, I've been trying to tap into what's my inner guidance saying in any given moment. And I thought, that's it. I want to work on being an expert in following my inner guidance. Without a doubt, that's my challenge. I will be an expert at hearing my heart and acting on it. And so I started with pausing before every little decision that I made, as small as, where should I park in the grocery store parking lot? What should I cook for dinner? Should I call back a friend? I would stop, check in, try to figure out what my inner guidance was telling me in any given moment. And I worked this way for months, and I noticed the shift starting to happen in me as I went through the practice. And the first thing that happened was I sort of developed these guidelines for myself on how to know if it was my inner guidance leading me or my mind. And there's this principle in ECKANKAR that I've heard since I was a child, which is before you say something, stop and think, is it true, necessary, and kind? And so as I tried to figure out what my inner guidance was saying, I developed these 3 similar questions for myself before I would act. And the first question that I would ask myself is this coming from fear or coming from love? So before doing anything, and in the example of calling back a friend, am I calling this friend or having this nudge to call the friend because I'm afraid if I don't call back, I'm going to forget? Or if I don't call back, I'll feel guilty that this person will be upset with me and I'm afraid of dealing with that consequence? Or am I calling because I love talking to them and I'm really in the mood for a good conversation? And if I wasn't in the mood for a good conversation, I wouldn't call, as hard as it may be. It was a shift in behavior for me. And that brings me to the second question I would ask myself, which is it the harder thing? And I found for myself that my journey towards figuring out the more spiritually aligned thing was typically the harder action for me to take, because it required me to shift a normal way of operating, to change how I was being, maybe face a fear, step out of a comfort zone. So my first step was, is it coming from fear or love? The second step was, is it the harder thing? And the third question I would ask myself is, have I been patient? Because I realized that I'd get in these scenarios where I'm sitting there thinking for days, I'd say, I don't know, I just don't know what the right thing is. I don't know. And then it dawned on me, that's because I'm not supposed to know. It's not a mental answer. I'm supposed to feel it. And if I don't feel it yet, I need to be patient until I do. And so following these 3 questions for myself before I took action helped me start to align with what my true inner guidance was saying. Those were sort of my principles, and they led me through this journey over 3 months when I did this so intentionally in my quest to become an expert. So this experience for me taught me that inner guidance for me is always present and can be present as an outer guide. But I need to have the discipline, the self-discipline to listen, to pay attention to what's going on, and just this awareness. And that takes so much work for me. It is a constant checking in. And that's something that I think is part of the spiritual journey for many of us, is keeping track of that and remembering to wait a second, let me shift back and follow the guide and get my ego out of the way and my emotions and my mind so that I can really follow and see what's next. So when my husband and I got married, we had a box at our wedding, and we asked our guests to put recipes in it to tell us, give us tips for newlyweds, what can we cook for romantic meals. And when I finally sorted through those cards, there was one card that was on a bright pink note card, written in all caps with an exclamation point, and it said, "For any recipe, love is the secret spice." And it didn't take me long to figure out that my mom had written it. And she's been a spiritual inspiration of mine my entire life. And, after having kids and starting to cook regularly all of these family meals, I decided to tack it up on my kitchen wall. It's next to my stove. And that became a practice of discipline for me, the self-discipline of, let's keep love first. And when I prepare meals for the family, I'll sprinkle some love on top. And I do this with my 4-year-old, Mateo. And he knows that, we cook meals, we sprinkle the love, and then we serve them. And it has been this beautiful gift for me as I practice, discipline, self-discipline, trying to remember, and maybe 45% of the time I actually remember to do it in the rush of life. But when I do, it feels so good. And so I want to paint a picture for you. It's 5:15 a.m. one morning, and my husband had been traveling for about 3 days, which meant that I was alone in the house with my 3 kids and alone overnight. The twins are 2. You heard that I have a 4-year-old. They wake up. I didn't sleep well. 5:15, everyone is awake and grumpy and overtired. And so I'm carrying the twins, one in each arm, and they're 30 pounds each, 2-year-olds. We're walking down the steps, and the 4-year-old is pulling my pajama pants down, leading in front of me, walking so slowly, and we're dragging our way downstairs. It's pitch black. It's cold. We get downstairs. We fumble our way into the kitchen. I turn on the light, and Nico, the other 2-year-old, said, too bright, Nico, bright. And he's crying because the light is too bright. So I turn off the kitchen light. We're back in the dark, open the refrigerator door, grab a container of strawberries. Lenny tries to close the refrigerator door. The strawberries fall all over the floor. And everybody scrambles to pick them up. The kids are trying to get them to eat them, and I'm trying to grab them to wash them. And so finally I snatch all the strawberries back, and the kids all are crying now because they thought they were getting their strawberries, and I stole them away. And so I carry them over to the sink. I wash the strawberries. I've been through this before. This is not a rare occurrence. I take out their bowls, boom, 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 3 bowls, chop up the strawberries, nice and quick, hand out the bowls. Here we go. Nico, Lenny, Matteo, get out of the kitchen. Everybody go eat your strawberries. You'll feel much better. Take a deep breath. We're through it. Nico and Lenny walk out of the kitchen. They go and sit down and eat their strawberries. And I look at Matteo, and he looks at me, and he says, "You cut these the wrong way." And I say, okay. I'm a toddler mom, and I know when to pick my battles. This is not one of those moments. So I said, "Oh, you're right. I did cut these the wrong way. Let me take these strawberries." I put that bowl to the side. I patiently get out the next new bowl, take the strawberries, chop them up, this time hopefully the right way, give him the bowl. I say, "Okay, Matteo, take your strawberries. It's time to eat them. Let's go." Getting a little more firm here, feeling much more impatient. And he looks at me in the eyes, and he takes the bowl and just drops it on the floor. He says, "That was the wrong bowl." And he starts to cry. And I have no empathy for the tears at this point because I'm losing it. I'm so frustrated. I need a drink of water. I'm tired. We're all exhausted. I hear Nico and Lenny starting to squabble with each other. And so I say, "Okay." I take the bowl. I take that other bowl that had his poorly cut strawberries. I pour them out. I put them in the new bowl. I give it back to him. And through gritted teeth now, I say, "Okay, take these strawberries and go eat." And he starts bawling his eyes out. Crying. And now my anger is up to here. And I've lost my patience. And I've had it. And with all of the patience I possibly can muster, I look at him and I say, "Is there a problem?" And he looks at me right in the eyes, and his little tears are here. And he says, "Mommy, you forgot to sprinkle the love on these ones." And boy, talk about crack in the heart and burning fire of love and heart being cracked open. I lost it. I got down on my knees and I hugged him. He was right. I can do all these spiritual exercises and I can tap into my inner guidance. But if I can't, when the rubber meets the road, pour out patience and love, what type of spiritual life am I living with my kids and my family? And so I know now, and I've realized and I'm reminded constantly that any time that I'm sprinkling anything other than love on food, on thoughts, on my words, on my actions that I take, I'm creating karma, and I'm creating karma for myself. And as on my spiritual journey towards freedom, that is the last thing that I want to be doing. I want to be a vessel of love. Thank you.
Oh, I just love how Laura tells that story. She has such an amazing attitude toward all of it. So, what is the big takeaway from Laura's experience? The secrets to spiritual self-mastery can be surprisingly simple. Here are 2 steps you can take that can advance you on your journey to spiritual freedom. First, do everything to the best of your ability. And second, do it for divine love and love alone. Sri Harold Clem puts it beautifully. He says, "Mastership is anything except getting by. You do everything until it sings. And why? Because you want to. You love to. So how do these spiritual principles work? Well, divine love is the master power. It can bypass karma and free soul, your highest self, to co-create a better life so we can serve others in their pursuit of a better life. When we act from this vibration of divine love, we invite the highest power into even the smallest task. To tap into that vibration, you can try singing Hue. The ultimate universal spiritual exercise is the Hue, a sacred sound and ancient mantra that can be sung anytime, anywhere, by anyone for spiritual upliftment. Hue is just the best way I've ever found to let love illuminate you and spiritualize the heart. It's a calming, healing sound, and we'll play a recording for you where thousands of people are singing. It'll play for just under a minute, so you can feel free to sing along or just listen. Here we go. For more on using spiritual exercises to co-create a better future, please check out the resources in our show notes or visit ECKANKAR.org. For a deeper dive on spiritual self-mastery, I recommend our episode, How to Develop a Powerful Spiritual Practice, linked in the show notes. That's our show for today. Thanks for listening, and all the best on your soul adventure, whatever it may be.